Fleet Admiral Kro-Thak adjusted his breathing apparatus as he stared at the tactical display before him. The blue marble called Earth hung in space like a wounded animal, smoke trails rising from its continents. His mandibles clicked in what passed for amusement among his species. "Status report," he commanded, his voice a gravelly rasp that echoed through the command bridge of the dreadnought Eternal Dominion. Captain Vexnull, his second-in-command, turned from her station. Her 4 eyes blinked in sequence as she processed the incoming data. "Sir, our bombardment has been less effective than anticipated." Kro-Thak's antennae twitched. Less effective? They had unleashed enough firepower to crack a moon in half. "Explain." "The humans have somehow managed to maintain 70% of their defensive grid. Their orbital platforms are still operational, and their ground-based installations continue to respond with surprising tenacity." The Admiral's laugh was like gravel being crushed. Tenacity? What a polite way to say the stubborn little mammals refuse to die properly. "Admiral," Communications Officer Dexcor interrupted, his voice trembling slightly. "We are receiving a transmission from the human fleet commander." "Put it through," Kro-Thak ordered, settling back in his command throne. This should be entertaining. Perhaps the humans were finally ready to beg for mercy. The holographic projector flickered to life, revealing a human female in a crisp military uniform. Her dark hair was pulled back severely, and her eyes held an intensity that made several of the bridge crew shift uncomfortably. Her nameplate read Admiral J. Torres. "Fleet Admiral Kro-Thak," she began, her voice steady despite the chaos visible behind her on what appeared to be her bridge. Sparks flew from damaged consoles, and crew members rushed about frantically. "I am Admiral Janet Torres of the Terran Defense Force." Kro-Thak leaned forward, intrigued despite himself. "Admiral Torres, I trust you're prepared to discuss terms of surrender." Torres tilted her head slightly, and Kro-Thak could swear he saw the corner of her mouth twitch upward. "Surrender? I am afraid you have misunderstood the purpose of this communication, Admiral." "Oh!" Kro-Thak's mandibles clicked again. "This was unexpected. I am calling to inform you that your invasion fleet is trespassing in Terran space without proper documentation. You have exactly 30 minutes to withdraw beyond the heliopause, or we'll be forced to escort you out." The bridge fell silent. Even the constant hum of the ship's systems seemed to pause. Kro-Thak stared at the human admiral, wondering if the translation matrix had malfunctioned. What?" he finally managed. 30 minutes, Admiral," Torres repeated calmly. "Oh, and Admiral, you might want to check your rear sensors." The transmission ended. Captain Vexnull was already at her station before Kro-Thak could bark the order. Her eyes widened as she processed the data. "Sir, we have multiple contacts approaching from the outer system. Fast movers coming in hot." "How many?" I cannot get an accurate count. The signatures are unusual." Kro-Thak moved to the tactical display himself. What he saw made his breathing apparatus wheeze in what might have been surprise or fear. Dozens of ships were racing toward them from the direction of Jupiter, their engine signatures unlike anything in the Galactic database. "Were those things?" he muttered. "Unknown, sir," Vexnull replied. "But they're broadcasting identification codes." "Let me see." The lead vessel identifies itself as the TDF Defiance. Others include the Indomitable, the Retribution, and... She paused, her translator struggling with the next name. Try and stop us." Kro-Thak's antennae drooped. "Try and stop us? What kind of species named their warships like that?" "Sir," Dexcor called out again. "We are receiving another transmission. This one is from the approaching fleet." On screen, a new holographic figure appeared. This human was male, younger than Admiral Torres, with short-cropped blonde hair and a grin that somehow managed to look both friendly and terrifying. His uniform bore the insignia of a rear admiral, and his nameplate read, R. McKinnon. "Howdy there, alien folks," Admiral McKinnon said cheerfully, as if he were greeting neighbors at a barbecue rather than addressing an invasion fleet. "Admiral Rick McKinnon here, commanding Task Force Get Off Our Lawn. I believe my colleague Admiral Torres gave you fellas a deadline." Kro-Thak found his voice. You cannot possibly believe your primitive vessels can stand against the might of the Hegemony fleet. McKinnon's grin widened. Oh, you mean these old things? He gestured vaguely behind him. Yeah, we threw them together pretty quick when we heard you boys were coming. Nothing fancy, just some good old-fashioned human engineering. Admiral, Vexnull whispered urgently. Our sensors are detecting massive energy buildups from the approaching vessels. Whatever their power sources are, they are significant. McKinnon was still talking. See, the thing is, Admiral Kro-Thak, was it? We humans have this funny little quirk. The more impossible the odds, the more ornery we get. And right now, with you folks having the audacity to show up uninvited and start shooting at our home. He shrugged. Well, we are feeling particularly ornery. This is preposterous. Kro-Thak snarled. You are outnumbered 5-1. Are we? McKinnon asked mildly. Boys, did someone forget to tell the Admiral about the rest of the fleet? As if summoned by his words, space around Earth suddenly lit up with new contacts. Ships decloaked, stations that had appeared destroyed suddenly powered back online, and what Kro-Thak had assumed were debris fields revealed themselves to be carefully camouflaged battle platforms. What how? Kro-Thak stammered. Oh, that, McKinnon said casually. Yeah, we figured you might come calling eventually. Spent the last 50 years preparing a proper welcome. Hope you do not mind the deception, but we wanted it to be a surprise. Vexnull was frantically working her console. Sir, we are now reading over 300 active human vessels, not counting the fixed defenses. And these energy signatures, some of these ships are outputting more power than our dreadnoughts. Kro-Thak felt a chill run down his carapace. This was not how invasions were supposed to go. The humans were supposed to cower, to beg, to offer tribute in exchange for their lives. They were not supposed to, whatever this was. Admiral, McKinnon continued, his tone becoming slightly more serious. I think there has been a fundamental misunderstanding here. You seem to be under the impression that humans are easy prey, that we will roll over and play dead at the first sign of superior firepower. He leaned forward slightly. That was your first mistake. And the second. Kro-Thak found himself asking. Despite himself, McKinnon's grin returned, but this time it was cold as vacuum. Thinking we would fight fair. Space around the Hegemony fleet suddenly erupted in controlled chaos. What Kro-Thak had assumed were asteroid fragments began moving, revealing themselves to be mines. Ships that had been broadcasting as destroyed suddenly powered up weapon systems. And from the direction of the moon, a massive vessel that had been hidden in the shadow of Luna began to emerge. Admiral Torres was being polite when she gave you 30 minutes. McKinnon said, Me? I'm not nearly as diplomatic. You have about 5 minutes to start burning for home before we demonstrate why humans have never, in our entire history, had a word that translates to surrender in any meaningful way. That is impossible, Kro-Thak protested. Every species has concepts of surrender, of submission to superior force. Oh, we have words for giving up, McKinnon acknowledged. But we also have words for tactical retreat, strategic withdrawal, regrouping, and falling back to regroup. What we do not have is a word that means I give up and will never fight again. That concept simply does not exist in human psychology. On the tactical display, Kro-Thak could see his fleet being systematically surrounded. The humans had not just hidden their numbers, they had turned the entire inner system into a trap. This is Fleet Admiral Kro-Thak of the Hegemony 3rd Battle Fleet. He broadcast on all frequencies. To any listening Hegemony forces, be advised that intelligence reports on human military capabilities were inaccurate. McKinnon laughed, a sound that somehow conveyed both amusement and imminent violence. Oh, Admiral, you have not seen inaccurate yet. Those reports you received about human capabilities? Those are the ones we wanted you to see. What? Did you really think a species capable of interstellar travel would not have figured out information warfare? We have been feeding your spy networks selective intelligence for decades. Everything from our ship counts to our weapons capabilities to our defensive strategies. McKinnon's expression became almost sympathetic. You never really had accurate information about us at all. The massive vessel that had emerged from behind Luna was now fully visible on the tactical display. It dwarfed even the Hegemony dreadnoughts, and its energy signature was off the charts. "What is that?" Kro-Thak whispered. "That." McKinnon glanced over his shoulder as if he had forgotten about it. "Oh, that is the TDF? Absolutely not. Our newest dreadnought. Took us 40 years to build her, but we figured she might come in handy someday." The ship was enormous, easily 3 times the size of Kro-Thak's flagship. Weapons ports along its hull were beginning to glow with barely contained energy. "Admiral," Vexnall reported, her voice tight with fear, "the energy readings from that vessel. If it fires, our shields will not hold." "Tick-tock, Admiral," McKinnon said cheerfully. "Time is running out, and my trigger-happy crew is getting impatient. What will it be? Strategic withdrawal, or do we find out how many pieces a Hegemony dreadnought breaks into when hit by a planet cracker?" Kro-Thak looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. These were veteran soldiers who had conquered dozens of worlds, but now they stared at their displays with expressions of barely controlled panic. The human fleet was not just larger than reported, it was better organized, better armed, and clearly better informed about Hegemony capabilities than the Hegemony was about human capabilities. "Sir," Dex Corps called out urgently, "we are receiving priority communications from the Hegemony High Command." "Put it through," Kro-Thak ordered, hoping for reinforcements or new orders. The holographic projector displayed the image of Supreme Admiral Kro-Thak, his superior and one of the most feared military commanders in the galaxy. But instead of the usual imperious bearing, Kro-Thak looked shaken. "Kro-Thak," the Supreme Admiral said without preamble, "you will withdraw immediately. Full retreat, maximum speed." "Sir," Kro-Thak was confused. "We have not yet engaged. The humans are bluffing. They must be." "Negative," Kro-Thak replied sharply. "We have just received reports from our other fleets. The humans have contacted them as well." "Other fleets?" "All of them, Admiral. Every Hegemony fleet currently in space has received simultaneous communications from human forces. They know exactly where every one of our ships is located, real time. They've been tracking our entire fleet for months, possibly years." The bridge fell silent except for the increasingly urgent beeping of proximity alarms as the human fleet continued to close in. Furthermore, Kro-Thak continued, "Our intelligence networks throughout the galaxy are reporting that human agents have been operating in our territory for far longer than we believe possible. They know our fleet compositions, our tactical doctrines, our supply lines, and our political structure better than we know theirs." McKinnon's voice cut through the transmission. "Sorry to interrupt, Supreme Admiral, but you are down to about 2 minutes. After that, well," the sound of weapons charging could be heard in the background of his transmission. "My crew has been looking forward to field testing our new toys." Kro-Thak looked directly at Kro-Thak. "You will withdraw. Now, that is a direct order." "But Sir, Admiral," Kro-Thak interrupted, "the humans just transmitted to us the exact location, speed, and heading of every Hegemony vessel in space. They included detailed schematics of our ships, complete crew manifests, and tactical assessments of our capabilities. They know things about our own fleet that some of our own commanders do not know." Kro-Thak felt his legs give out slightly. He had to grip his command throne to remain upright. "They also," Kro-Thak continued grimly, "included a polite but firm suggestion that we find something else to do with our time. The exact phrasing was perhaps you would be more interested in competitive gardening." McKinnon's laughter could be heard clearly over the communication. "Hey, gardening is very relaxing, much more peaceful than getting blown into component atoms." "1 minute, Admiral," came Admiral Torres' voice from another channel. "I suggest you make your decision quickly." Kro-Thak looked at his tactical display one more time. The human fleet had them completely surrounded, with overlapping fields of fire and what appeared to be enough firepower to reduce his entire force to scrap metal. "All ships," he announced heavily, "prepare for strategic withdrawal. Maximum burn for the jump point." "Excellent choice," McKinnon called out cheerfully. "Safe travels, Admiral." "Oh, and next time you're thinking about visiting, maybe call ahead. We are much more hospitable to invited guests." As the Hegemony fleet began its retreat, burning hard for the edge of the system, Kro-Thak could not help but ask one final question. Admiral McKinnon, he transmitted, how long have you been planning this? The human's grin was visible even through the static of the long-range communication. Since the first day we looked up at the stars and wondered who else might be out there, Admiral. We figured that if we were not alone, some of our neighbors might not be friendly. So we prepared accordingly. For how long? Oh, about 10,000 years, give or take. We are a patient species when we need to be. 10,000 years. Kro-Thak species had barely achieved spaceflight. 3,000 years, 8GOAS, the human fleet escorted them to the edge of the system with what could only be described as aggressive politeness. Kro-Thak found himself wondering what other surprises these humans might have prepared. He had a sinking feeling he really did not want to find out 3 days later. Fleet Admiral Kro-Thak sat in an emergency session of the Hegemony War Council aboard the Fortress Station Dominion Prime. The mood in the chamber was grim, to put mildly. 12 Supreme Admirals sat around the obsidian table, their various species represented in a rainbow of discomfort and wounded pride. Supreme Admiral Kro-Thak activated the holographic display at the center of the table. Gentlemen, we have a problem. That, rumbled Supreme Admiral Kro-Thak, his tusks clicking irritably, is the understatement of the millennium. The display showed a galactic map with red dots indicating hegemony fleets and blue dots showing confirmed human positions. The blue dots were everywhere. According to our latest intelligence, Kro-Thak continued, the humans have been operating covertly in hegemony space for approximately 200 years. They have trading posts, research stations, and what appear to be military installations throughout our territory. How did our intelligence services miss this? Demanded Admiral Rixmore, her gill slits fluttering with agitation. They did not miss it, Kro-Thak replied grimly. They were compromised. Many of our intelligence operatives were, in fact, working for the humans all along. The silence that followed this revelation was deafening. Kro-Thak leaned forward. Are you telling us that our own spies were human agents? Not all of them, Kro-Thak admitted. Some were simply influenced. The humans have a remarkable talent for making friends. They established legitimate businesses, provided valuable services, and gradually integrated themselves into our society. By the time anyone thought to question their presence, they were already indispensable. Admiral Vex Prime, the youngest member of the council, spoke up. What kind of services? Kro-Thak manipulated the display, showing detailed reports. Medical technology, agricultural improvements, entertainment systems, communication networks, transportation logistics. He paused. They essentially modernized half our infrastructure while we were not paying attention. And we're just now realizing this. Kro-Thak's voice was dangerously low. It gets worse, Kro-Thak continued. We have received a formal communication from the human government. They are requesting a meeting. A meeting? Kro-Thak could not keep the incredulity out of his voice. After humiliating our entire fleet, they want to chat. Apparently so. They have suggested neutral ground for negotiations. Negotiations for what? Our surrender. Kro-Thak activated another section of the display. That is where things become interesting. They're not demanding surrender. They are offering a partnership. The council chamber erupted in angry chittering, roaring, and various other expressions of outrage from the assembled species. Silence, Kro-Thak commanded. Before you all have aneurysms, you should hear their proposal. The display shifted to show what appeared to be a human document, translated into hegemony standard. The header read, Proposal for Mutual Cooperation and Galactic Stability Initiative. They are suggesting, Kro-Thak explained, that rather than waste resources on warfare, both our civilizations would benefit from cooperation. They have already demonstrated that they possess technologies we lack, and they acknowledge that we have resources and knowledge they could use. Admiral Rixmore was the first to speak. This is preposterous. We cannot simply forget that they made fools of us. Can we not? Asked a new voice from the chamber entrance. All heads turned to see Intelligence Director Thexland entering the chamber. The director was ancient even by hegemony standards, and his mechanical prosthetics clinked softly as he moved. Director, Kro-Thak acknowledged. Your report. My report, Thexlin said, settling into his chair with obvious effort, is that we have been catastrophically outmaneuvered by a species that thinks 50 years ahead is short-term planning. Explain. Thexlin activated his personal display unit. The humans have been studying us for centuries. Not just our military capabilities, but our psychology, our social structures, our economic systems, our political dynamics. They know us better than we know ourselves. The display showed intercepts of human communications dating back decades. For example, Thexlin continued, they correctly predicted that we would attempt an invasion of their homeworld approximately 18 months before we actually decided to do so. They knew which fleets we would send, which commanders would lead them, and what our tactical approach would be. Impossible, Kro-Thak growled. Is it? They have been embedded in our society for 2 centuries. They have observed our response patterns to hundreds of different situations. To them, we are not mysterious alien conquerors. We are a known quantity with predictable behaviors. Kro-Thak felt his breathing apparatus wheezing again. Are you saying they manipulated us into attacking them? Not manipulated, exactly, Thexlin corrected, but they certainly prepared for the eventuality. And when it became clear that conflict was inevitable, they chose the time and place to their advantage. Admiral Vex Prime looked confused. But why would they want us to attack them? Because, Thexlin explained patiently, they needed to demonstrate their capabilities without appearing aggressive. By allowing us to initiate hostilities, they could respond with overwhelming force while maintaining the moral high ground. Clever, admitted Rix more grudgingly. Terrifyingly so, Thexlin agreed. But here is the truly remarkable part. After demonstrating that they could have annihilated our entire fleet, they chose not to. They escorted us safely out of their space and then offered to negotiate. What? Kro-Thak asked. Why not simply destroy us and be done with it? Thexlin's expression was grim. Because they are playing a much longer game than we realized. They do not want to rule the galaxy through fear. They want to reshape it through cooperation. The holographic display changed again, showing a 3-dimensional model of known galactic civilizations. According to their proposal, Thexlin continued, they envision a galactic community where resources are shared, technologies are exchanged, and conflicts are resolved through negotiation rather than warfare. Naive idealism thefet gorthval. Is it? They have already proven they can defeat us militarily. They have demonstrated superior intelligence capabilities. And they have shown that they can integrate into our society without being detected. If they wanted to conquer us, they could have done so decades ago. Then why did they not? Because conquest is expensive, messy, and temporary. Cooperation is efficient, clean, and sustainable. Supreme Admiral Kro-Thak leaned back in his chair. What exactly are they proposing? Thexlin manipulated the display to show the details of the human proposal. Joint research initiatives, shared defense agreements, open trade relationships, and cultural exchange programs. In return, they offer access to their technologies and assistance in dealing with external threats. External threats? Rixmore asked. According to their intelligence services, there are several hostile civilizations beyond our current borders that pose a threat to both our species. They suggest that cooperation would benefit everyone. Kro-Thak studied the display carefully. And if we refuse, they have made it clear that they have no intention of conquering us by force. However, Thexlin paused significantly. They have also made it clear that they will defend themselves vigorously against any future aggression, meaning that if we choose to remain hostile, we will find ourselves increasingly isolated as they form alliances with other species. And given their demonstrated capabilities, those alliances are likely to be very attractive to potential partners. The chamber fell silent as the council members absorbed this information. Finally, Supreme Admiral Kro-Thak spoke. I want to hear from Admiral Kro-Thak. You were there. You saw their capabilities firsthand. What is your assessment? Kro-Thak considered his words carefully. They are formidable. Not just their technology, but their strategic thinking. They outmaneuvered us completely, and they did it while making it look easy Could we defeat them in a prolonged conflict? No, Kro-Thak said without hesitation. Not unless we were willing to accept casualties that would cripple our civilization. And even then, victory would be far from certain. Admiral Vex Prime looked thoughtful. What about their offer? Do you believe they are sincere? I think, Kro-Thak said slowly, that they are sincere about wanting to avoid unnecessary conflict. Whether they are sincere about cooperation, that remains to be seen. Director Fexlin activated another display. I have additional information that may influence your decision. The new display showed intelligence reports from various Hegemony worlds. Over the past 72 hours, since news of our defeat at Earth spread, 17 member worlds have received direct communications from human representatives. Not threats, mind you. Invitations. Invitations to what? Gorthval demanded. Trade agreements, cultural exchanges, technology transfers, mutual defense pacts. The humans are offering our own member worlds the same partnership they have offered us. The implications hit the Council like a physical blow. They're going around us, Rixmore said quietly. They are providing alternatives. Fexlin corrected. Our member worlds are not prisoners. If we choose to remain hostile while the humans offer friendship and prosperity, how long before our own allies begin to question our leadership? Supreme Admiral Kro-Thak stood up slowly. Gentlemen, it appears we have a choice to make. We can cling to our pride and watch our empire crumble as our allies abandon us for more attractive partnerships, or we can adapt to new realities. You are suggesting we capitulate. Gorthval's voice was dangerous. I am suggesting we evolve. Kro-Thak replied calmly. The humans have demonstrated that they are not going away. They have superior technology, superior intelligence, and superior strategic planning. Most importantly, they have something we have never had, the ability to make former enemies into willing allies. Admiral Kro-Thak found himself thinking about Admiral McKinnon's cheerful threats and Admiral Torres' calm confidence. They were never afraid of us, he said quietly. Not for a moment. No, agreed Fexlin, but they were respectful. Even while demonstrating their overwhelming superiority, they treated us as equals worth negotiating with. And that, Kro-Thak said, may be the most terrifying thing of all. They could have humiliated us completely, but they chose not to. They could have destroyed us, but they chose not to. They could have dictated terms from a position of absolute strength, but instead they offered partnership. The council chamber was quiet except for the hum of the station's life support systems. Finally, Admiral Vex Prime spoke. What happens if we say yes? We become junior partners in something larger than either of our civilizations. Kro-Thak replied. We maintain our autonomy, our culture, our dignity. But we acknowledge that the galaxy has changed, and we must change with it. And if we say no, we become increasingly irrelevant as the humans build relationships with everyone else. Eventually, we become a footnote in galactic history. Kro-Thak looked around the table at his fellow admirals. These were beings who had never known defeat, never questioned their supremacy, never imagined that their vast empire could be made obsolete by a single species they had dismissed as primitive. There is another consideration, he said finally. If the humans are telling the truth about external threats, we may need their help to survive what is coming. Director Fexlin nodded grimly. Our long-range sensors have detected anomalous readings from beyond the galactic rim. Something is out there, and it appears to be moving in our direction. The humans know about this. They were the ones who first detected it and shared the information with us, along with their proposal for cooperation. Supreme Admiral Kro-Thak looked around the table one final time. All in favor of accepting the human proposal for negotiations? One by one, hands were raised. Even Gorthval, though his tusks clicked irritably as he did so. Unanimous, Kro-Thak announced. Admiral Kro-Thak, you will represent the Hegemony at the negotiations. Try not to embarrass us further. Where are the negotiations to be held? Kro-Thak asked. The humans have suggested a space station at the midpoint between our territories. They are calling it Handshake Station. Despite everything, Kro-Thak found himself almost smiling. Even their names for things were optimistic The council session ended and the admirals began filing out. Kro-Thak lingered behind with Director Thekson. "Director," he said quietly, "do you really believe they can be trusted?" The ancient intelligence chief considered the question carefully. "Admiral, in 200 years of covert operations in our space, they never once used their position to harm us. They could have sabotaged our infrastructure, assassinated our leaders, or sown chaos in our ranks. Instead, they improved our technology and strengthened our economy. Then why reveal themselves now? Because something is coming that is bigger than both our civilizations. And they believe we have a better chance of surviving it together than apart." Kro-Thak nodded slowly. "I suppose we will find out." "Indeed we will, Admiral. Indeed we will." As Kro-Thak made his way back to his quarters, he could not shake the feeling that the galaxy had just changed in ways that would take generations to fully understand. The humans had not just defeated the hegemony. They had redefined what victory meant. Perhaps, he thought, that was the most human thing of all. 3 weeks later, as a shuttle approached Handshake Station, Kro-Thak saw Admiral McKinnon waiting in the docking bay with what appeared to be a welcoming committee and a large banner that read, "Welcome to the future." Even now, he could not tell if they were being sincere or sarcastic. Knowing humans, it was probably both.